Today I want to provide a critique of Ben Shapiro's critique of the music from Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Now, to be fair to Ben, you should watch his entire review, just because, I'm going to be providing some clips from his review, and it's worth getting the fullness of his thoughts. I don't think I'm taking him out of context or anything, I'm trying to be charitable to that, but at the same time, you should hear all of his thoughts to give him a fair shake. Also, it should be noted that, as Ben admits, he really doesn't know anything about this game. I assume his producer or somebody on his staff knew that this was a popular game, that the music is well liked, and they thought that talking about it would get him some clicks. And so I assume that's what's going on here, but I still think it's worth engaging with some of his thoughts here. And so I'm going to go back and forth and providing some clips from his review and then providing my response. And so let's start off by giving it to Ben.
Folks, today we are apparently reviewing music from the video game Clair Obscur. I have no idea what this is, as you can imagine. Okay, so I'm putting on my music hat. Okay, let's see.
Dim dim da 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 dim dim da 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 dim da di dum. Dim dim da 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 dim dim da 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 dim da di dum. Non là-haut sera ravi, les toits à se noir fera.
Okay, I'm waiting for her to get to the theme. I'm waiting for her to get to the theme. This should be the intro to the theme, yes?
All right, now a few things already. And this is going to be an ongoing criticism of his, that he feels like the music isn't really going anywhere. And first of all, he's listening to clips, right? So that alone prevents him from getting the full themes that are at play here. Now, to his point, that, a lot of these songs are they're kind of meandering, right? Where there's not always a super clear chorus at play. I mean, sometimes there is, but sometimes there's not, or maybe it just takes a while to get there. And as we're going to see by the end, if you don't already know, Ben certainly knows the technical side of music theory. He knows more than I do. I played the cello back in the day, but I wouldn't go head-to-head with him on the technical side of musical theory. He definitely has the advantage there. But I think that he's missing his Aristotle. See, before you can properly say whether or not a thing is good, you have to know what that thing is. What is it supposed to be? And in order to know what a thing is, you have to know what a thing is for. What purpose is it serving? And so this is not a piece of music that should be treated in isolation, but it is a piece of music that is part of a story. Just like a piece of music from a ballet or an opera or a movie soundtrack. Like, it's all meant to be doing something in service to the story that is being told, the art that is being created. And this game in particular is a story about grief. It's a story about sorrow and how we integrate grief, or perhaps how grief kind of integrates us into its fold. If you've ever been in a state of serious grief, as I know that I have, and odds are you have too, even if it looks a little bit different than mine, then you know that grief itself is destabilizing, that it doesn't seem like it's really going anywhere. It's an emptiness more than it is a harmonious substance. Now, maybe you've been able to find solid ground through your grief, maybe even more solid ground than you would otherwise have. I know that's been my experience. I've learned to be grateful for the things that I most wish didn't happen, because they've allowed me to see the enduring value that remains when the things that I seem to most want are stripped away. And so, you know that grief has that destabilizing element, even if it might serve to provide a greater degree of stability in the end. That greater degree of stability comes from something else than the grief itself. Grief itself is meandering. It is destabilizing. And so it makes sense that a lot of the music from this game seems kind of meandering. It seems kind of pedantic. It seems perhaps like you're wandering around and not going anywhere. And when Ben notices that, he sees that as a point of negative criticism, whereas I see that and I recognize that this is actually doing something really profound. It's doing something really meaningful, and that's because I have an understanding of what the thing is for. And if you don't know what a thing is for, you don't really know what a thing is. All right, let's go back.
Okay, so keep going. And that's just a repeat, but with some harmony. I mean, I like the string arrangement. That's nice. But I'm waiting for the song to go somewhere. This better not be a repeat.
Again, the song, it is going somewhere, and it's taking us along with it. It's taking us deeper into the psyche, which doesn't always have firm guardrails, doesn't always have a clear direction in mind, even though it's always moving, it's always going somewhere. And it's that elusive quality that actually makes the music really work.
Clair Obscur, trouble, rature.
The song never went anywhere. That's unfortunate. Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm a sucker for like anything that shows me a slow-mo picture of a Steinway. Viola. Okay, again, give me instruments, but that song didn't go anywhere. I was waiting for the actual chorus, and there was no chorus to that song. One of my main critiques of many modern songs, including apparently ones for video games, the song has to go somewhere. If the song goes nowhere, you just give me bum 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 bada bum 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 bada bum bum bum, like over and over and over. That's not a full song. That is the intro to a song.
All right, so he and I are clearly just not listening to the same music because, I mean, it definitely does go somewhere. I don't know exactly what he's looking for. Well, I guess I kind of do. Later on, he talks about how music should build toward something like a grand harmony. But again, that just doesn't fit the aesthetic of this game, and you can't really tell what a thing is unless you know what a thing is for.
Okay, so apparently this is a song called Déchirer la toile. I'm waiting for it to go somewhere. It's starting to. It's building to something. I hope. I guess the idea for some of these songs is that they're not supposed to go anywhere, I guess, because you just play them on repeat. Yes. So I guess that it's not supposed to like build to anything. And so it kind of is repetitive. Yeah, it's kind of a soundscape. All right. Not terrible. Not terrible. Yes, correct. I think that's right. Video game elevator music is an excellent take, Savvy.
All right, so I get his point here that this is, again, it's kind of meandering, is kind of repetitive, and that's because, well, this is world music. This is background music. This is meant to, it's a world-building dynamic that's meant to give you a certain kind of feeling. It's creating a certain kind of aesthetic as you engage with the world of Expedition 33. And it can't really be separated out from that. But even if it is separated out from that, it still provides a certain haunting, melancholic beauty that I think is pretty inescapable if you're really listening to it. I think it's beautiful. I think it's sorrowful. I think it does exactly what it is that it's supposed to do.
And this is widely considered to be the best song in the game. Okay, here comes the French accent. You ready? Here we go. Une vie à ta mère. This is another song that's going to go nowhere. Okay. I mean, this is supposed to be, I guess, near the end of the game during some of the pivotal. This is during a fight? This does not sound like it's near a fight. What kind of fight is it? Is it a fight where he poses a lot?
Again, he's not aware of the context of this game. He's not aware of the context in which this music is placed. When he says, what kind of fight is this? It's a fight where people pose a lot. I mean, to his credit, this is not traditional battle music. But that's because, as you move through the narrative of this game, it becomes increasingly evident that the main antagonist isn't really any particular person. Yeah, I mean, there are personalities that play an antagonistic role, but ultimately, the antagonist of the game is grief. It is sorrow. It is loss. And so that is principally what is being fought against. And so this music helps to set that tone that we're dealing with something emotional, we're dealing with something psychological, more than we are dealing with a flesh and blood threat. So again, this is just a case of him not understanding what the thing is for, and in not understanding what the thing is for, he doesn't really understand what the thing is.
Okay, this part's okay. This is better. This is better. Okay, well, I like that the song actually built towards something, so that's good. Most of the songs that you've played me so far sort of stay in the same register, and then they don't rise into an upper register, so it goes somewhere. I'm not sure that it builds someplace so dramatic that I'm, riveted by it, but at least it builds somewhere, so that's good.
All right, so again, when he says things like that, we're just not listening to the same piece. I can't understand not being riveted by that.
This one is called The Paintress, okay? And apparently, this is the song for the main boss of the game, the final boss. Okay, so they're using dissonance, right? Okay, which is what you should use for a villainous character. Dissonance is where the harmonies don't sound pleasant to the ear. You had the violinist up top, but the violinist wasn't actually doing anything difficult there. The violinist is just playing very high notes repeatedly. There are difficult violin parts. That is not a difficult violin part.
Maybe that's not a difficult violin part, but I don't really consider that to be ground for criticism. I mean, something being complicated doesn't necessarily make it better. I mean, it might be an impressive display of skills, but really the question is this section of music, or is this element of the composition serving the goals of the broader music, the broader art? And in this case, I would say, yes, it is. Whether it's simple, whether it's complicated, it's kind of irrelevant to the more basic question of, is this doing what it's supposed to do? And is that worth doing? And I would say yes on both counts.
A lot of music is about creating intensity and then dissipating the intensity. So this was one of the things about original classical, like if you listen to Baroque music, there's almost no dissonance. It's supposed to be pleasant. So in sort of the postmodern era, in the post-Schoenberg era, you get a ton of dissonance in music. And it can be really, really powerful. So for example, if you listen to Bartók's Concerto for Orchestra, which is one of my favorite pieces, Bartók is writing very, very dissonant music. And then in the first movement of Concerto for Orchestra, which you listen to the Fritz Reiner recording with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, which is the best recording, the first movement is enormously dissonant, and then it resolves into this thundering horn section, and the horn section is quite non-dissonant, and it really is stirring because you went from dissonance into harmony. So it's very cool. You can use dissonance in really interesting ways, but this is why you need to know the rules of the thing you're doing before you break them.
All right, so here he says that dissonance is potentially a powerful element, but that it is meant to resolve into a harmony. Well, I think that a major theme in this game is the fact that grief itself is a kind of dissonance that doesn't necessarily come together into a harmony. Like, grief itself, it's devastating. It takes, and, well, sometimes it doesn't give anything back. And I think that emptiness, I mean, it's very much the kind of feeling that you get at the end of this game. That even if you pick a resolution to the narrative that you think is the better option, well, there's something missing out of both of those options. There's a certain kind of emptiness that you know is never going to be filled. And so the unharmonized dissonance that we get in a lot of the pieces in this game, well, they're serving a very important purpose in creating the kind of aesthetic, in demonstrating the reality of grief on a deep psychological level. And so, again, I've been pretty repetitive about this, even as Ben was pretty repetitive in his criticisms of, things aren't really going anywhere. Well, I've been pretty consistent in my counter-criticism that is kind of the point, and that you can't really know what a thing is, including a piece of music, unless you know what it is for. What is it trying to do? And at that point, the level of criticism turns away from the strict technical elements of what you think a piece of music ought to do, to now we're trying to figure out, does this music accomplish the aims that it sets out to accomplish? And then are those aims worth accomplishing? And I think those are really the fundamental questions. And I'll provide a fuller review of Clair Obscur at some point, but for a general statement, as part of this particular video, I'm going to say that I think that it's accomplishing something meaningful. Yeah, I've got my criticisms regarding exactly what the game does with these themes, but generally speaking, I think that it's doing something very important. And I think that the music does an excellent job of serving that end. So there it is. Ben Shapiro destroyed with facts and logic. Make sure that you are subbed to my channel and the Mythic Mind Games podcast for more on Clair Obscur at some point in the near future. Until next time, Godspeed.